Morning all, it's Lee from Fry's Garage here. Hope you're starting to enjoy your weekend, being the Saturday morning. Today we have a beautiful piece of Australian history, the good old Holden HQ 4-door with a small block Chevy. Now the good man himself has bought this little vehicle in, just stating that it's sluggish, bit of a misfire he thinks. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over it and do a general engine health check. So what we'll do is we'll pull the plugs, have a look. We'll be looking for fouled plugs, carby float levels, general tuning, just see how and where she's at. And I think in order would be for a good compression test as well, just to see the health of the bottom end, maybe some oil pressure readings as well. So we'll start her up. I did move it into the shed and it wasn't great, hard to start. To me, it's like it was only running on 5 or 6 cylinders, but we won't be able to prove that until we pull the plugs. And if we see fouled plugs, we're going to know for sure that something's wrong with those cylinders, or in general that it is firing, but barely, low spark due to the carbon. And what we'll do is we'll clean those plugs, and I'll show you that method, and we'll go from there. We'll reset it and try and tune it and see if she comes better. Otherwise, we'll have to start digging a little bit deeper as to cause. So let's try and start it, see how she goes, and we'll work it out. So beautiful condition this, very immaculate. Okay, so it started quite easily. It's cold. It tells me it's running rich, because it is cold. I don't know if you can hear that, that's a very bad misfire. I'll move to the engine bay. Hopefully we can keep it going. Alright, so you can see on a constant rev, we've got that misfire. See the engine bouncing quite fiercely. It's definitely not a large cam, so we can't say that's what it is. And on a steady RPM level, it's very erratic, which means we've got some firing issues on some cylinders, and dead cylinders at that. But it seems okay, good acceleration, so the accelerator plungers are working in the holy carby. So fueling is there. Whether it's too much and it's fouled some plugs is yet for us to determine. So I'll stop now, we'll pull some plugs and we'll come back. Righto. Alright guys, we're back again. I've pulled all 8 plugs and here we have one of the problems. Alright, so this is cylinder number 2 and you'll see there's quite a lot of oil residue, carbon build-up. Alright, so that cylinder would be pretty much dead. Alright, so there's one of the cylinders down on fire, and I noticed that the remaining are all carboned up. Do you see that? Every porcelain piece is black. So we have an over-fueling problem, or a lack of spark integrity, or both. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm not a big believer. This looks like a good quality plug. Alright, it's not very old. Now people say fouled plugs, put them in the bin. Well, I hate that saying, because I can tell you now, I've had plugs where I've had to defoul them 5 times to try and get an engine running, instead of replacing that set 5 times, because that's quite costly. So what I'll do is I'm going to get a flame, alright, so a gas torch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the end of these tips on the electrodes and the anode, and basically get rid of that carbon, and it will basically look like new, because what we're doing is we're flash burning the carbon off, which is basically what all the new diesel DPF systems do. Alright, so if someone ever tells you that if your plugs are fouled you put them in the bin because you can't reuse them, it's a load of crap. And we really need to steer away from using wire brushes, or as people have used in the past, emery paper, and going between the tips and the gap there to clean it up. Not favourable at all, because it will take the protective coatings off the unit and you will have to change the plug. Alright, so each plug generally takes about 3 minutes to burn it off, and you'll have pretty much a brand new plug again. We'll bang them in, start it up, and then we'll tune it and see if we can get this thing back to where it should be. And or also seeing what's going on with this number one cylinder. I have a suspicion or a suspect there, either the rings or the valve seats, and the valve stem seals. So hopefully not. We'll give it a go anyway. We'll do a compression test, oil pressure, while we're there on cranking. So alright guys, we'll come back. Back again guys, Fry's Garage, where the teaching begins and the learning never stops. So I've got the gas torch. Alright, I'm going to show you how to clean a fouled plug. You've got to remember that's just basically, if it's dry, it's carbon. Alright, it's been running way too rich, or the combustion has been quite low, so it just hasn't been a complete combustion burn. Good plug. I'm not going to waste money on new ones. Why fix something when it's not broken, if you know what I'm saying? Alright, so I'll show you how to gas it. Alright, so always put it to somewhere where it's going to insulate quite well, not melt or catch fire anywhere. Alright, I've got a few hazards around, but we won't go that far anyway, so it doesn't matter. So simply, any gas torch, alright? This is a good one, most from Bunnings, whatever, alright? I'm not going to go into that, you can research that yourself. So we go first a slow, low temperature burn, and if we need a little bit more, we'll go hot. Just remember, we don't want to overload that plug, especially the electrode, of too much heat. It will go orange, because that's what it does, you know, when it's running in the engine. But we don't want to go too hot too quick, because it's not natural for it. Alright, so here we go. Let's give it a go, see how clean we can get this thing. You kind of want to aim the heat and the torch into the center, around where the porcelain should be. Okay, we're going to wait for it to go white. Okay, so there you go, we got white. That's the original porcelain, which means that we're flash burning the carbon off. Alright, so now this spark plug is going to be good to go again, and we don't need to spend another $100 on a new one. Alright, so keep going. So it's all clean, it's all good. Alright, most of the carbon, we get rid of most of it, even if it's 80%. The engine will do the rest when it's running. Look at that, guys. Alright, it's as simple as that. That's literally taken me, what, 30 seconds. And we have some white porcelain, which is what we want. We've got a clean tip. I'm going to gap that, make sure it's correct for the HO ignition that it's got on the vehicle. And then we should be able to get this thing running, and then get into the tuning, which is on one of my other videos on YouTube, and apply all that to get this thing running to its potential. Alright, we'll put the plugs in and I'll come back. Morning all, welcome to Fry's Garage, where the teaching starts but the learning never stops. So, little HQ, GDS, 307 Chevy, fouled plugs. We've seen all the previous bits, so I'm just following on now. So the next day, worked out that the carb is absolutely leaking like a sieve into the engine. So I've pulled it off and just checked the basics, you know, like the power valve. The power valve's good, nothing's bypassing. I can't find any cracks. Jet sizes, they're a 65, which should have been fine. And basically it was on the idle circuit. So I can see this carb is quite new. Someone's played around with it. You know, they've done what we call the bypassed drillings into the butterflies, just for it to sort of allow a little bit more air in there. But for some reason, she's pouring the fuel in, so I've got to find out why. I've got to strip it right down. In the meantime, I've just put another basic 4150 style carby onto the engine, which is one of my spare test trials carbies. So we'll stop here, I'll put it all together, fuel her up, and then we'll start it and see how much better she runs. And obviously if it runs better, then we know, yeah, we'll put his carby on there and she's good to go. Alright, we'll be back. Alright, back again guys. Look, I've got to apologise, I sort of gave a bit of false information here. So I said I fitted one of my spare 4150s on there, but it's actually a 4160. And the way you can tell is the 4160 only has one metering block. Okay, the 4150s have two. They have one at the back as well. Alright, this is what we call a side inlet. Okay, so I've fueled it. I've adjusted the inlets, so the idle air screws to a turn and a half. That's what we basically do. So a few pumps and she should fire straight up. So hopefully this thing runs nicely, and then we'll be able to see where we're at with condition of the motor and whether we've diagnosed the fueling issue to be just that other carburettor. All right, so here we go. Better? Much better. I know she's running nice and rich at idle, because if I cover the intake, the engine RPM is not dropping, which usually means that if it's running lean at idle and you put your hand over it, the engine RPM will die, which means it's lean. Alright, so we're in a good spot. It runs nicely at idle, cam gives it a bounce, very responsive. Job done. Well, we'll have a look at the other carby and probably just put a new one on. It's easy. We'll give her a tune up and go for a drive, but I think we're good. Alright guys, you take care. We'll see you in the next training vid.